Kia ora, Deidre. Welcome to the show. It's beautiful to have you here. How have you been?
Good, thank you. Kia ora, Catherine. Lovely to be here again with you.
It's
Looks
been a while. There's been a lot that's shifted and changed in the planetary alignments. Like we've just gone into what is it, Taurus and Chiron now, is it?
Chiron and Taurus, yeah.
Chiron
Yeah.
and Taurus, sorry, other way around. Let's
Yeah.
talk into that. What does that mean for all of us?
Okay, so Chiron is the planet that's known as the wounded healer. And so wherever you're born with him in your chart, you arrive in this lifetime carrying the wound of rejection. So it's your journey in this lifetime to heal that wound. And once you've healed that within yourself, it's where you go on to be the greatest healer and teacher of others. So it's like one of those things that we go through in life through the experience of what we go through. We learn things, and then it helps us to change and to evolve into people that can, taking that wound or that pain and turning it into an asset or a talent or a gift in some way that you can help other people because you've been through that experience, and so you really understand what it feels like. And you've also usually gained the tools that you found that you needed to heal that. So they are also what you can share with other people too. So Chiron's been in Aries for the last 7 years. So since, well, 7 to 8 years. So since about 2018. And everybody out there in those last years, it has been hard. These last 8 years have been really, really hard. And because the wound of rejection that we've all been dealing with is that I am energy. When it's in Aries, it's all about who am I personally? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Can I support myself? Can I lead others? Can I stand on my own 2 feet? Can I look after me 100%? And so because of that, we've all been really finding out about alignment and authenticity and sovereignty. So, if you're going to be standing up on your own and going after what you want and everything, you've got to be aligned with what is right within you. You can't sort of, and so what a lot of people have found over these last years is that what they've been wanting to achieve and trying to achieve hasn't been aligned with who they truly are. So once they worked out, and a lot of that was to actually coming back to what you love, what makes you happy, what you enjoy, rather than trying to make money or be successful or have a great career or do all the things that the outside world wants from you. We had to come back to us and the individual you and what makes the individual you happy and fulfilled in this lifetime. So we've had a lot of challenges because, when we're learning things, always learning them the hard way. So, learning to stand on your own 2 feet, you would have had to put up with people putting you down or taking away your security or not supporting you. And, believing that you're a leader, you would had to have people turn away from you, not want to be led by you, walk in the other direction so that could learn to step up more, to be more, and most importantly, to no matter how anybody else treats you or what's going on outside of you, that you still believe in you. And that's been really, really important. So now that Chiron's moved into Taurus, it's a whole new level of 7 years of learning. And this one's very much to do with our own personal security. How safe do we feel in this lifetime? And so people who have defined their safety in this lifetime by how much money they have in their bank account or how flash their house is or what sort of car they drive or how big their career is, are very much completely reliant on their security being created by something outside of themselves, which is not sustainable. If we rely always on what's outside of us, we're always going to collapse in a heap because when that goes down, which it will, we've got nothing left to hold on to. So this is going to be 7 years of people going back to basics and really understanding what true security is and how to create that for yourself. And so everything's going to be rethought and reactivated in some way because the physical comfort's going to come into this a lot too, and our bodies and how we feel about our bodies and how we look after our bodies, all, we're coming back to, I always think of Taurus energy as what's real in the world. And so we're also going to find, because Taurus is all about money and security, but we're also going to find that security needs to be redefined.
Mm.
Security isn't about money. It's not about how good your job is or whatever. Those are all things that help you feel secure, but they're not what's going to last the distance. And so
Mm.
this is what we're going to be all looking at. So everybody, wherever the Taurus energy sits in your chart, is where you're going to be feeling that wound and having to work on that energy.
So, Deidre, just looking back at the shift from Aries into Taurus, because we're still so new, Chiron being in Aries and now Chiron's in Taurus, because we're still going through that transition, does it make sense that things will start to kind of escalate? Like, so it almost feels like those lessons, because it's like the last big boom before,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah?
But I think also what's happened is Uranus has moved into Gemini a few weeks ago or a month ago. I can't remember exactly when that happened, but there's been a lot happening. And
Yeah.
so You know, Uranus is the planet of sudden and unexpected change, or often, continual change. And Gemini is all about curiosity and busyness and getting involved in lots of different things and, having lots on the go. So that's where all the busyness is coming from. And so when you've got that Aries energy as well, you've got all this busy stuff going on, then you've got, yeah, but I've got to be me. I've got to put me first. It's all about me. We're having to be discerning. You can't do everything, and not everything's for you. And so it's
Mm.
about, really going within that alignment, that sovereignty, that authenticity to know that what you want to have or do in your life is aligned with who you are. And therefore it's going to happen. It's going to work. It's going to play out for you, but it's not going to play out if you're going after things or trying to be what is not aligned with you.
Yes, yes. And so say with Aries, finally given her last little lessons before we move into Taurus.
Yeah. Yeah, but also with that, Chiron's moved out of Aries, but we have Saturn and Neptune still sitting in Aries. So the
Ah,
Aries energy is still there and has a lot of influence over us because Saturn's, he's our disciplinary, our teacher, and Neptune is our higher way of looking at things. So while they're in Aries, they're still encouraging us to put ourselves first. But
mm,
they're sort of saying, have the dream of putting yourself first, have the dream of being the leader, doing your own thing, whatever it is, but you must create structure within that. It's not just about beating your own chest and going, look at me, I'm the king of the world. It's about, okay, how do I create a foundation and a structure so I can put myself out there, so I can be seen, so I can be the leader that I want to be. So it's all about, doing that hard work, putting those things in place that allow us to grow and evolve. Otherwise, everything's just built on a house of cards and it just
yeah.
all comes tumbling down as soon as things get tough.
That seems to be the running theme of the spiritual leaders at the moment was what they're talking into is, you've got to start from the foundation, you've got
Yep.
to have a strong foundation.
Yes. Yes.
Um, Now, the other thing I was going to ask is this collectiveness, this need for collaboration, which is I'm feeling a lot into at the moment. That would
Mm.
be coming from our Gemini.
Yeah, well, actually, and that's also coming from Pluto and Aquarius, or the age of Aquarius that we're now in, because Aquarian energy celebrates everybody's differences and really understands and wants everybody to bring their differences to the table because it loves community. It understands that if we all come together with our different gifts and talents, we can create an amazing, alive, and thriving community because it's got everything it needs. So I think what is also going to be really important with all of these planets and what they're helping us all to understand is what can you bring to the table? And often, we're so busy being educated and working in jobs and things that become our careers or whatever, that we forget about those little things that we also have that are gifts and talents as well. That can be like you might, be a corporate CEO of some big company, but you also might be really good at growing potatoes. And, that's really worthwhile. But as this big CEO, you wouldn't see that as a gift. You wouldn't see it as a talent. You wouldn't see it as something overly productive because you're so caught up in making money and being caught up in the whole CEO, EO corporate world. But being able to grow potatoes is really important because potatoes will feed you. They're one of the most nutritious foods on earth. And so it is a gift. It is a talent. It is useful. And these are the sorts of things I really feel that Age of Aquarius and this Chiron and Taurus transit's going to really bring to our attention is what's real and what can we grow that's real. And I don't mean grow food wise, of course, but anything that's real. I've never been, and I felt such a repelling energy to anything to do with Bitcoin or cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
Because as far as I'm concerned, if you can't hold it in your hand, it's not
yeah.
yours and it's not real. And this is what we're again going to come back to is getting away with all these far-fetched ways of having money and making money, and come back to actually how do we just look after our own needs and the needs of others, of course, too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you hear it a lot, and very successful entrepreneurs and self-made millionaires, billionaires, all things. At the end of the day, it's nothing if you don't have real connection to one
Mm.
another.
Yeah,
Someone
yeah.
to share it with. All of those
Exactly. And so,
grassroots.
these are the things that we're going to start to realize how important they are. And the whole financial system is going to collapse in some way and be restructured in some way. We don't know. We can see it coming astrologically, but we don't know the details. We don't get to see exactly how that's going to play out, but we know it's coming. So the more self-sufficient you can be in every way, the more you can rely on yourself, which was the Chiron and Aries energy, the more you're going to be able to be productive with Chiron and Taurus and create that security, create that safety that you need to move forward with.
So talking into that, Deidre, what's our timeline for the financial crash? Do we have that? Can we no?
No, I think this year will start. Before the end of this year, there'll be something significant that happens, or a direction that we can see it going on, or something. Yeah, I would be very surprised if nothing happens before the end of this year. And I've always felt since the beginning of 2026 that the first half, which we're just finished now, is going to be very different to the second half. So I think there's a lot more coming over these next 6 months.
So the solstice that we've just experienced, it was yesterday. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that. What is that? What's the solstice?
Well, it's it goes back to the sort of, well, to I don't know when it goes back to, but the pagan times and stuff, when it's the shortest day of the year in the southern hemisphere, and the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere. So again, this is when we go back to nature and to the basics, and how we used to work with those energies, like, and the full moons and the new moons and all of those things, with growing, with everything that we did was very much based on what the planets, or how the planets were affecting us at any given time. So I think we're going back to that energy and going back to basics,
Mm.
and that understanding of being able to use what's around us, as opposed to relying on things that are online, or whatever. We're getting real all over again.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I think AI coming out and just really making such a big impact on the world is kind of really making us go, hey, how do we balance this?
Yeah,
And, going back to grassroots, going back to things that, are tangible, I guess.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah,
mm,
and I think, and going back to people, instead of, so many people have these, and some of them have really good, I guess, relationships with others online. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I also sort of feel that people, do they actually know how to talk to somebody face to face anymore? I mean,
mm,
the way of the, what do they call, the keyboard warriors, where people
mm,
speak their truth and they get all agitated and they throw it all out there online. But can you
mm,
do that to a person? Can you actually
mm,
stand up and speak your truth? I think that's going to be really important too, because Taurus rules the throat area. So that is another thing I feel that's going to come up with Chiron and Taurus, is forcing people to speak up and speak their truth. And
yeah.
most people don't want to speak their truth because they don't want to hurt someone else's feelings, or they don't want to be misunderstood or misinterpreted in some way. But
Mhm.
if you don't do it, you're never going to learn, and nobody else is going to be able to learn from you if you keep it all to yourself.
Mm, mm. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the great thing. And I think it is all in how you use AI and all the things, is that
Mm,
it does help you to get sometimes when you do feel stuck, when your throat chakra is blocked up and you're not able to truly express yourself, it
yeah,
actually gives a way to channel that so that you can get your point across and not stay hidden in the shadows.
yeah,
I think everything, like anything, it is all how we use it. If you're using it with
exactly.
integrity, you're using it, and you are trying to be authentic with how as there's no difference to sitting with somebody in session or sitting with it an elder and saying, hey, how do I get my point across? And then they give you the wording to do it, and then you go and speak it. I think it's all very, it's not one way. I think everybody kind of gets a little bit like there's one answer to the question, when actually there could be
Yeah.
multiple.
Yeah, and that's when, because we've come out of the conditioning over the last 20, 30, 50 years, has been very much about one size fits all. We
Yeah.
all do this and then we all do that, but we're not, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
I think it comes down to intention at the end of
Yeah.
the day. I think that's the one thing that we can kind of align with
Yeah.
most things, is what everything is what's the
Yeah.
intention behind it.
And with everything that's going on with the planets, there's also this very powerful energy that we were talking about before we started, of the divine feminine. I mean, we have got to come to the end of the patriarchy. I mean,
Yes.
the patriarchy have been in charge for the last, I don't know how many thousand years, and we haven't ended. It hasn't ended well. It's not looking good. And so men need to hand their power over to women.
Yeah.
And not men need to be subservient and do as they're told and go and hide in the corner or anything like that. We're not going to treat them the way that they treated us.
Mm.
But they have got to realize that the feminine way is more powerful, and it will have better solutions and answers than the masculine way, because we've tried the masculine way for so long and it is not working. We have this, top to bottom feeding system, and when it should be horizontal.
Mm.
Women know more about the higher good of all concerned.
Mm.
Not all women, of course,
Mm.
and not all
Mm.
men, and not all men are terrible patriarchal, people either.
Mm.
But it's that feminine energy, and one of the things that's become very obvious, is the different emotions. And as children, men are only taught really that anger is the only emotion that's acceptable.
Mm.
They're not encouraged to talk about their feelings. They're not told it's okay to cry. But when they get angry and lash out, that's kind of acceptable because that's what boys do. So if all of these boys are growing up with that belief, then how are they ever going to be open and talk and discuss things and talk about their feelings and embrace their divine feminine, which of course men have as well?
That's
They're
right.
going to be constantly stuck in that masculine. And I don't know about you, but for me, anger is one thing that just shuts me down. If
Mm.
someone's going to get angry, especially a man start angry and yelling at me, the walls come down and I stop
Mm.
communicating. And I think
Mm.
a lot of women are like that. We don't, anger doesn't work for us like it does for men. It doesn't bring a solution to a problem like it does for men. We need to talk, we need to discuss, we need to feel our way through things. And
Mm.
everybody needs to do that, men and women.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but I think if when we look at the divine feminine and understanding that it is in both male and female, and so it's not necessarily women that need to take over. I think it's more men need to step into alignment with their divine feminine and learn to, kind of come from that approach versus taking everything from a masculine approach, which is, very much action focused, the black and white, that kind of um, thing versus, a woman who will come in with ease, grace, flow, and abundance for all, and understanding that and I don't mean that because I don't like to put like I've met a lot of very feminine men in my lifetime, and straight as well. It's not like it's because they're gay. How the old
Yeah.
kind of mindset is because they're in alignment with both, with all of themselves.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, more what we need to be focusing on is how do we all get into alignment with servicing all aspects of ourselves.
Yeah, I agree, but I do feel that women are going to have to take the lead for men to know what to connect with.
Yeah.
We have to take the lead first. And absolutely, there's lots of beautiful men out there, very connected with their divine feminine, who know how to use that energy properly, but not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. So this
No.
is where women, I think, really have to step up to show the way. It's all very well to say men need to get in touch with us, but they need to see how it's done. They need to
Yeah, and we need to
understand how it
support
works.
that. I think that's more the point, is that we actually need to be supporting that part of them as well, instead of being like, this is your role, you just do this, you're just the man, you just do the blokey stuff. Actually, no, I need you to also hold space for me. I need you
Mm.
to, nurture the children. I need you to do those maternal things that I do as well, because that's how they connect into their
Yeah.
divine feminine, as the
Yeah.
same with women need to actually step into their divine masculine so
Yeah.
that we can create that balance
Yeah. But the
versus.
divine feminine feeds off and lives off intuition. And
Mm.
this is something a lot of men have shut down within themselves. So that's what they need to develop first and foremost. Not so much the sensitivity and the looking after things and the compassion, all of those things. It's that intuition to know that what feels right is
Mm.
right, rather than what
Mm.
they think is right is right. Because that's how men are sort of conditioned to think I do. Whereas we
Mm.
are, I feel, I feel, I communicate, I do.
Yeah, well, I do think that when you're nurturing, you're feeling into it.
Mm. Yeah,
When you're in your maternal, you're feeling into it.
yeah,
So I think when a man does feel into being maternal or being, like, I think he has to feel into it. I don't think he
mhm,
can just, be like, oh, this is what I do. I
yeah,
think it's really a process of feeling into it. I watch my husband and the growth that he's had from stepping into being a father, but also a father that's very hands-on and very, you know,
mhm,
feeling into how his daughter's feeling,
mm,
like how is she feeling it? Because his natural approach is just to shut it down and move on. But
yeah,
actually having a daughter has been the best teacher for him, because he knows,
yeah,
oh, I can't do that with her. I need to
yeah,
love her through this. I need to hold her in this. I need
yeah.
to allow her to cry and just lean into me. And it's
Yeah. And not to make me feel, and to understand, why does this make me feel so uncomfortable? Why do I feel the need to shut this down when it's
mm.
actually just a human expression that you should be comfortable with as just much as the person that's expressing it is comfortable with it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as we
'Cause
know, it's a lot of conditioning. Like, you go
yeah,
back
yes,
to what we're at the starting of the conversation, which is around patriarchy, and this is your role, you must stay there, and
yeah,
this is their
yeah,
role, they must stay there, and so
yeah,
it's about going into that, because I think when we are really in alignment with who we are, you don't want to do that. You don't want to not go and cuddle that kid that's crying, or,
Yeah.
lean over them and say, you're okay. How do you feel? What can I connect?
Yeah.
I think when you're being taught that, you actually have to remove yourself. And that's where we get that disalignment. We get a lot of disease within ourselves because we are having to play a role that doesn't feel natural to us, So how do we get back to that? Like, how do we shift so that we can come back into alignment with our divine feminine, after we've been conditioned to be a different way?
And it's a lot of work to be done, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about Chiron and Taurus and what tools and skills we can give our listeners to move through it.
Well, you need to look, I feel one of the most important things is to look at your sense of security. What is it that makes you feel safe? And then be aware of how in charge of that you are, how much control over that you have. Because if it's all to do with your career and how much money you earn and things like that, that's not under your control. And your job could be gone tomorrow. Anything can change, as we're seeing. Things are changing so fast and so rapidly. So I think that because there's so much busyness, we have no choice but to come back to what feels right to you. And I think this is what this Taurus energy, because Taurus is an earth energy, so it's all about grounding yourself in reality. And so my reality is completely different to your reality, but it doesn't mean one's right or one's wrong. They're just different.
Yeah.
And so we've got to work out, what works for me and how do I redefine my security so I can feel safe, so I can feel like I'm supported, so I can feel like I can feed myself, entertain myself, create shelter for whatever it is you need. How do I do that for myself? And that, there's nothing wrong with having a job and earning lots of money. I'm not saying there's anything bad about that at all, but you've got to think further than that, because like I said, if that was to be gone tomorrow, then what? What's your plan B? What's your backup plan? And this is where community is going to become so important, because we've got to look after one another. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a job, then something else you can do within the community, which allows you to feel purposeful, perhaps allows you to develop a talent or a gift that you didn't even know you had, or that you never considered was worthwhile, and also allows you to feel like you're still part of something, even though you're not, getting in your car and driving off to your job every day. You're doing something else. So we're really finding how we operate. And so I think for everybody to look at, what else can you do? What else makes you happy? What else makes you feel fulfilled? And how do you bring more of that into your life? And because we're going to go through a lot of changes in that whole security thing, it's going to bring up a lot of physical discomfort for people, because suddenly you might not be able to, buy those bottles of wine you bought every week, or have that holiday you had every week, or even hold on to your holiday home that you had because you can't afford it anymore. All of those things can happen. So what are you going to do to make yourself still feel good if you don't have those things that you've relied on before? So this is where I think for a lot of people, it's all coming back to you, to forgiveness for yourself, for putting a worth and a value on yourself, and creating your own security, whatever that might mean to you.
So for me, when I listen to that, and it's a contradictory act for me, because part of me believes that we are manifesting our reality, right? So we are the co-creators with source. So if we're co-creating with source, and our creation is around abundance and it is about prosperity and all the things, how is it that we can get out of alignment due to this shift in this planetary alignment?
Because I think we aren't, I think, that you have, when you want to manifest something, it doesn't take, the simplest way to manifest is one thought without all the complication that we bring in with it,
Yeah.
And so if you put out that thought of wanting to manifest, and then a part of you is insecure, and so it doubts that, or it questions that, or it tries to do it a different way and sort of corrupts it in some way, the manifestation is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So this is, again, it's coming right back. It's all very well to say, yes, we co-create with the universe. Absolutely we do. I believe that 100%. But the universe can only operate on your strengths and your weaknesses. And so if you're putting out a tentative sort of, I want this, but I don't think I'm worthy of it, that's what you're going to get back.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that's
think
what Chiron is bringing up in Taurus.
yeah. Yeah. So
So
we've got to heal the wound so that the manifestation or the thought or whatever we're putting out there that we want is pure and uninterrupted and uncorrupted in any way.
And the wound is there for us to grow and expand so that
Yeah.
we can use it as, in Māori we say rongoa, in English we say medicine, to be able to help others and also help us to grow and evolve and be better versions of
Yeah.
ourselves.
Absolutely. And we've got to all look at our wounds that we're
Mm.
carrying, because everybody comes into this lifetime carrying a wound of rejection, what sign of the zodiac your Chiron's sitting in. And, we've got to really look at how, especially men, have to really look at how. I had an absolute bit of a meltdown yesterday, actually, when I had this realization of how many fathers have ruined their sons.
Oh
And
no.
it's terrible. I know, I just suddenly realized how many men I know who are so broken
Yeah.
because of how their fathers treated them. And
Yeah.
how dare they?
Yeah.
They ruined these kids' lives by not allowing them. These kids that got rejected or beaten or abandoned or neglected in some way, they grow up carrying so much anger, so much anger. And they never did anything wrong. And I
No.
know it's all part of their growth and learning. It's what we all go through and all that
Yeah.
sort of thing
How
too.
far do
But
we go back?
it
Hey,
was all
how
just a
far
bit
down the
much.
rabbit hole did we go, Deidre?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
guess, understanding that, and I guess for me, I've always kind of processed that from, having a father who has his own demons, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And seeing the effect that it has had on my oldest brother, actually, which is,
Yeah.
won't talk too much into that because it's not fair for me to,
Yeah.
but pretty much understanding that hurt people.
Yeah.
Where did that wound start from? And we can go, far
Yes.
along the
How long has this been
the
perpetuated for?
lineage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily as much as we would like to target an individual. Where did that stem from? We've
Yeah.
had wars that have created that dysfunction within
Yes.
families. There's been so many different events that have created this wounded masculine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I guess I've
And
always
it's
kind of looked at it like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the rot of the patriarchy. It
Yeah.
really is. And so, yeah, and this is why, we need to change from that very, very grassroots level, which is why this sort of Taurus energy, this earth energy, because for the last quite a few years, we've had lots of the planets have been in water and earth, and now we're coming much more into air and fire. So we're getting a lot more creative imagination, a lot more thinking, a lot more clarity in our thinking so that we know what's right. And then we've got the fire energy, which allows us to do something with that. While we were stuck in earth and water, it was all like things have to stay within the box and they have to be very rigid. And then the water created this illusion. Oh, yeah, okay, it's fine to stay in the box. One size does fit all. But now we're actually getting back to, we're coming back into what's real again.
Yeah. Yeah. Which means that it's now tangible, right? It means we can actually make change. We can
Yes.
actually, which is great.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have great faith in humanity. We're gonna get there. I just hope we can get there sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do the planets have a say in that?
Yes and no. They will keep us changing and evolving. I mean, what's going on now is really, like I said, people are really getting down to those grassroots things, learning to appreciate one another and learning to, the importance of your own sovereignty and your own
Mm,
authenticity. I mean, alignment. I mean, people around me and myself, so many people are leaving relationships, jobs, families, friendships, whatever, because it's just not aligned with you anymore. And if
yeah.
it's not aligned, it just feels so wrong. And it
Yeah.
feels, yeah. And we've got to be aware of that. If something's feeling wrong in your life, do something about it because it's not going to fix itself. And it's
No.
the universe showing you you're out of alignment here. And no matter how much you might love something or enjoy something or want something, if it's not aligned with you, it's not going to be your friend. It's not going to help you. It's not going to evolve with you and help you grow into the person you want to be. It's going to hold you back instead.
And like I guess talking into that's quite important too. Like I know for myself with my husband, like as we know with our consciousness as we grow and expand, we either people fall away or they come with you.
Yeah.
And that's really, when we're stepping into higher paths and things like that. And so for me, it's always been really important that with my husband, he listened, well, not listened, but he understood the level of consciousness that I was raising to, and I brought him along on the journey, but he wanted to.
Mm.
So that's the shift. Some people are just like, oh no, I'm all right, I'm good for the ride, and actually that's not good enough in this
Yeah.
space. You need to be able to support and stay in alignment with individuals,
Yeah.
otherwise you do outgrow them.
Yeah. And the other thing is a lot of people come into it really admiring that level of consciousness and really thinking this is wonderful. I really like that. And then it becomes a threat.
Yeah.
And so
exactly.
again, that alignment became out of alignment because it wasn't coming from, deep within you. You look at something and go, I really like that. But when you're actually in it, is it what
So it's a completely
is it
different thing.
yours? Is it you? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I think, what the Buddhists talk into not having an attachment to anything. And I think, impermanence, and I think that's really important to understand is that, we in this human lens see things from a limited perspective. When we understand that this is only one incarnation,
Yeah.
and so, there's a lot more that goes on here. So I think if we understand that things shift and change, and that's okay for the highest good of you and for the highest good of all, it kind of relaxes a little bit more around the need for things to be a certain way, and I think also understanding that God has a better view. So if things get removed from your life, instead of sitting there thinking, why is this happening to me, and reframing it to thank you for taking care of something that I couldn't see myself, yeah, I think that kind of helps, because I feel like what you're saying, Deidre, a lot of people are going to be going through, and how do we offer support for them around that transition, around those changes?
Yeah. I think they have to question it. They have to look at where they are, whatever's going on, and really question it objectively. Does this make Catherine happy?
Yeah.
Does this make Catherine feel safe? Does this
Yeah.
make Catherine feel loved? Whatever. And if those answers are no, then the it's out of alignment. And look, you can recreate alignment with people. There's no doubt about that. But I think we're also at a time where we can't carry people anymore.
No.
People have to step up. If they want to be aligned, if they want to be part of it, then they have to step up, which
Yeah.
means we've all got to face our own demons. We've all got to do
Yeah.
that inner work, or else, you're always going to see that other person as a threat or a competition or something other than that alignment that you're meant to have with them.
And understanding as well, I think that, when we look at from a spiritual lens, we are all interconnected. We're
Mm.
interconnected with nature, we're interconnected with the weather, we're interconnected with each other.
Yeah.
And so when we remember that everything is a projection of our internal reality, so what's tuning up, and this is a big one for me because I've had a bit coming up recently. It's like, shit, where is this? Where are these lessons? What is it that I need to learn from these lessons? Because this is something that I have manifested in my life in order to be able to work through, and that person that has decided to play that role for me, instead of looking at them as a threat or something like that, more along the lines of teachers and thanking them for bringing that lesson into in front of you, having that mutual respect.
Yeah, and I do think, as we were also talking earlier, is that expectation thing. I think everybody needs to be very aware of their expectations. I mean, there's, expectations are normal. It's normal to have an expectation that something's going to come out of something or something, but we put too much, your expectations and mine are very different. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're right and I'm wrong or whatever, but it does mean that we put things on people often because our expectations are often something we put on another person. And it's what we think, that what we expect from them or what we expect from the situation, but we're not thinking enough about what they want or whether they're up to it or whether that is what their alignment is. So
Yeah,
we've got to
so
be careful with that.
communication is probably the big thing at the moment, I think, is learning to communicate clearly what
Yeah.
your needs are and how you're perceiving a situation around, expectations, etc., so that the other person has an opportunity to express, and then you can see whether you're in alignment or not. I think a lot of the time we think that, it's better to just the best solution will come out of this is what you think, and then maybe people's best solutions aren't in alignment with what your best solution is or whatever.
Exactly.
So communication is key, like what we talked into earlier. And how
And
you
also
do
always
that.
keeping that awareness that we're all very different, and what might come very easily to you and be a natural expectation is completely alien to me because it's just not on my bandwidth.
Yeah. And that actually everything is absolutely perfect because we're all contributing in our own unique ways, which makes the whole. I think that's the other thing, is that because we're getting out of this very patriarchy, you're right, I'm wrong, this is the only way to do it. And we're stepping into this more space of allowing many answers to one question. that's where we can look at that actually, hey, hold on a sec, get that you're absolutely perfect and how you've dealt with that, but actually this is how I deal with it, and I actually don't align with that, so I'm allowed to decide what comes in and out of my reality, as are you. You know, and maybe not personalizing these situations so much, allowing them to be what is needed for each and every individual in that moment as well.
Because I mean, we're not here to live up to other people's expectations.
No,
So,
no,
but we've also got to be aware of the expectations we put on ourselves, and
that's
are they
right.
fair, and are
That's
they
right.
justified, and are they achievable, or is it something again you're going to just use to whip yourself around the head a few times and beat yourself up because you haven't achieved whatever that expectation was that you had?
Yeah. I mean, let's have a look at that. What are our expectations? Why do we put these on ourselves? Well, I mean, in a way, it kind of feels limiting.
Yeah, it is. But I think we decide, we want something to be better in our life. Say, you start, say you start some study and learning, and you expect that once you've learnt this, you're going to become an expert in this.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work that way.
Mm, mm,
And again, you might become an expert in it, but that's limited in itself. So the
mm.
expectation that I'm going to do this study and then I'm going to learn all of this, so that means I can move into this role and then I'll have this great job and then I'll be able to do all of this. Well, that's the expectation, but anything can happen.
Yeah.
And you might decide, at the end of that study that you're not in the least bit interested in pursuing it any further. Or you might realize halfway through it, this is actually nothing like what I thought I was going to be getting out of this. So
Yeah.
we set ourselves up and we set other people up to fail
Mm, mm,
through expectations. So we've got to be more, again, not look at it as failure, but actually
mm.
look at, okay, that was an expectation I had. Was it aligned with who I truly am? Or was it an expectation that I thought I needed to achieve or what other people achieve, so I should do that as well?
Yeah. So again, comes back to authenticity, right? So, but reciprocity, that word's been coming up a lot for me, in Maoritanga, like we have kotahitanga, I think it is. Yeah, where it is all around that, universal flow. So, that, I give to you, you give back to me, and it
Mhm.
always that, that reciprocity, that feeling
Yeah,
of interconnectedness, that connection to wholeness, to oneness.
yeah.
How does that align in this conversation that we're having?
Um, can you repeat that? Sorry, I
Yeah.
just
So when we're looking at expectations, and making sure that they don't have it, that your expectations aren't like theirs, and da, 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 da. When you're looking at reciprocity and alignment of that,
yeah,
everybody, there is a level of, I'm going to give to you,
yeah.
you're going to give to me, we're going to do this in a beautiful synchronistic flow and alignment with source, knowing that, in Maori culture, we give as much, it could be 80-20. I give you 80, you give me 20, and that's fine, because at some point I might only have 20 and you've got 80. That's
Mm,
normal in our
yeah,
culture.
yeah,
But there is still a level of expectation that you will give 20. Do you
yeah.
understand? So how do we completely eliminate expectation?
I don't think we can.
No.
I think it's a very human quality. But
Mm,
what we've got to do is have expectations that aren't carved in concrete.
yeah.
That there's flexibility there. So, like
Yeah.
you said, the 80-20 thing, that's got to be able to be moved around. And
Yeah.
someone's the 80, and sometimes you're the 80, sometimes you're the 20. So it's about, I think it's about expectations. It's just not being carved in concrete, having flexibility and having room for movement there,
Yeah.
within that. So then it's not so crushing when you don't get that expectation met.
Yes.
And you're not putting so much pressure on other people to dance to your drum beat.
Yeah. 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 And how do you learn balance in that space when you're the one constantly giving 80 and getting back 20, or in your perception anyway, because as we know, we're all living in our own realities, but when you're
Well,
feeling that.
I think you do have to be aware of that. If you do find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're the one that's always doing the giving and not getting enough receiving, then
Mm,
maybe you need to have stricter boundaries. I
yeah.
mean, yes, there'll be times when someone's got more than you, but if this becomes a repeated pattern, then there's something not right there. There's something out of alignment, out of balance there. So I think we need to keep assessing that. And
Yeah.
not that there's a limit on it, but when it starts to not feel right, there's
Yeah.
something wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then maybe it just needs a conversation. That communication maybe just needs to come in. But you've got
Yeah.
to be always be aware of, we talk about unconditional love,
Mm,
and that is something that is, something that when it comes to children, I think it's very easy
Easy.
for us to love our children unconditionally. That's easy.
Mm.
But other people in our lives and other things in our lives, often there's conditions, expectations, and that put on it.
Yeah.
And so I think we've got to come back to that unconditional. If you want to do something for another person, you've got to do it unconditionally. Otherwise, you're doing it with an expectation, or you're doing it waiting for payback or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's not pure.
Yeah.
And so either
Yeah.
do it unconditionally or don't do it at all.
Is that a fair is that fair to put on the humans? Because as we know, where our perception is limited to our environment, our conditioning, our, is it fair to, ask that of the human race? Because I mean, as much as it sounds absolutely beautiful, I mean, we all have our Chiron and certain planets that's
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
possibly prevent that from happening.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, maybe it is a big expectation to have of people. But it is, again, this is where we have to, we're coming back to finding a new balance, a new way of working at all on the earth plane. And to me, the more you think about all of that, it just, to all I hear is community, villages, people looking after one another again,
Yeah.
and coming back to, because it's easy when there's just a few of you to look after each other's needs and be aware of what you need and what you don't. And we've got to master that. And then we can start to expand it out. So you start with your community, and then your village, and then the village next door, and then the region, and then the North Island, and then the whole of New Zealand, and then, well, let's do the whole world. But you've got to start with you first. You've got to start and master that, master your self-love and your self-worth, and then you can put so much more love and worth on everything else around you, and then that just keeps growing. But it has to always start with you. And this is where, the biggest problem often is that people are looking for their solutions. They're looking for someone else to fix it, or they're looking for solutions outside of themselves. But when you are happy and secure and loving within yourself, it doesn't matter what's happening around you. You're going to cope with it. You're going to get on top of it. You're going to be a part of it, and you're going to do it productively and happily and joyfully, because you are solid in who you are. And we have lived in a world so long where there is so much judgment. I mean, social media has absolutely screwed over a generation of children who
Yeah.
just get so insecure about the way they look and what they do and how they dress. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, it was hard before social media,
Yeah.
but it's got even worse since then. And we've got to get rid of it, come back to actually just what's real.
Yeah, I think it's really important, like talking into that. Like I know with my daughter, who I have had my struggles with, it's just that constant subliminal messaging, like when
Mm.
I'm with her, I just whisper in her ear, you're beautiful, you're perfect, you are perfect exactly as you are. Why? Because you are you. And just for simply that, and just constantly repeating that into
Yeah.
my children's
How does
mind.
that go? Because my daughter used to turn around and go, "You're my mother. You're supposed to say
Oh,
things
of
like
course.
that."
Yeah, she says it all the time. And I say that doesn't make it any less true.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she'll, oh, you have to say that. No, I don't. I chose to.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything that I do. I do it because, because it's the truth. And, and I just repeat and just really try and program that into her. And I have seen a massive shift in that. So I think a lot of the reprogramming needs to start at home. We need to,
Mm.
they have been exposed to social media. They have had all of this conditioning put into their little brains. So how do we reprocess that for them? And there are many tools out there. There's hypnotherapy, there's quantum healing hypnosis, there is EMDR. Like there's a lot of trained professionals that can help with that. But
Mm.
yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. I
Yeah.
agree.
But at the end of the day, in the old days, the
Mm.
love of the family and the
Yeah,
people around you were what created that for you.
yeah,
And that's what we
yeah.
have to come back to.
Yeah, look, I hope that that's in every family. I guess for me, like we're talking about our realities, I mean, for me, that's just a given. We love our children unconditionally
Yeah.
and our family, manakitanga. So, I mean, being Māori, we just all come in and we do that in our own ways. Whether there is disease like within relationships within the adults, our children come first. So if I'm not talking to my cousin, doesn't mean she's not going to love my baby. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's just
Yeah.
how it is in our family. So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
also showing them that that we can have things that we don't like about one another, but it doesn't mean that they have to not like that. So there is that,
Mm.
they're
Yeah.
unconditioned
Just
around
because we
that.
disagree doesn't mean we don't like each other. We just have a different opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe I don't like her, but that doesn't mean you don't have to like her. I mean, that's just being real,
Yeah.
as long as they're loving you, they're okay, at the end of the day, as long as they're, and I think that's how we were taught in my family. So you talked into, starting at home and then going out into the wider community and et cetera, et cetera. With me and my gifts that I've got, I've always worked as a healer. I've always, I always did midi on my aunties that they had happy feet, we call it club feet. And so I always massaged when my auntie was pregnant. I massaged her when that's just what we did. We healed through our hands, but we started at home. People didn't know this about our gifts. And once my grandparents passed, then I went out and started doing it with other people outside of my family unit. So that's how we were taught, and that formula I think it would be in many families.
Not many enough.
Right.
Not many enough. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's hoping we have this movement, right, Deidre? With all
we
the
will. It's coming. It's coming. It's happening. It's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's already happening. Yeah.
Yay. Now, just quickly before we go, because you have things to do and as do I, what is happening with this masterclass that you have? You've got this masterclass coming up on Tuesday. This probably won't be live, but then hopefully I can have this live before Saturday.
Yeah. So tomorrow I'm doing a free masterclass online via Zoom, and about the ingression of Chiron into Taurus. And then, so it'll be a general sort of masterclass where I talk about how it's going to affect us all, but like what we've talked about today, how it's going to affect us all as a collective, the earth plane, all the big sort of things that'll happen. And then on Saturday, there's a paid masterclass. Now, it's only $33 per person. And in that one, what you'll do is you'll get in touch with, you'll click on the link and you'll give me your astrology details. And that way, what's going to happen at this class is that I'm going to be able to talk each person who attends that class through how that Chiron and Taurus transit is going to affect them personally in their own astrology. So that it's like a mini reading basically but particularly focusing on Chiron and Taurus and how that's going to affect you over the next 7 years.
Amazing. I mean, I don't know how much time you got, but I'm happy for you to bring my chart up if you want to give them an idea of what that's going to look like, if you want to.
Okay. You might just have to give me permission to share.
Of course, that again. Okay,
let me just see if I can get this to come up.
Share settings, host tools. Oh, goodness me. Just share at a time. Has that given you permission to share?
I'll just try share.
There you are.
Yep. Hang on, it's just being a bit silly. Okay.
Sharing my dirty secrets with the world.
Yeah. So there's your chart up on the screen now. So your Taurus energy sits here across a little bit in the 12th house and across the first house. So this is where Chiron's moving through your chart at this time. Well, he's just here at the moment. He's only just moved into Taurus. So he's in your 12th house. So for you, what's going to come up, what may come up for you over about the next, he's going to be there maybe about the next year, is deep wounds that you have to heal regarding forgiveness, particularly self-forgiveness. The things that you've buried down and not, held a grudge about or been stubborn about or not wanted to work through or not wanted to compromise in because you're stuck in there's a hurt there, a pain of whatever that you're having to work through. And it's also you deciding, while he's in the 12th house for you for the next year, it's about you really looking at what makes you feel secure on a deep level, a deep inner level. But once he moves into the first house in about a year's time, it's going to be much more about you creating your own personal security. So sort of for the next year, you're thinking about it and where do I feel insecure? What do I need to work on? And then once he moves over your ascendant into that first house, it's going to be taking action to create that security for you.
So over the next year, I can expect lots of different, lessons being manifested along these lines in order for me to work through it. Is that what?
Yeah, I think what you'll find is triggers.
Yeah.
Basically, things will come up about where you have a belief or a thought that stops you from feeling safe and secure in life. And And maybe in the back of your mind, it could always be, and which is often common for anyone who's got their ascendant or their sun in Taurus, is that you're the type of people that your bank balance, you've got in your mind a certain figure that your bank balance cannot get any lower than, because if it does, all hell lets loose. You're going to die, you're going to be out on the street, you've got no food, no money, everything goes wrong. So that is a belief that is untrue, that will happen to you. And so that
I,
might be, as an example, something that you might come up for you or for someone with that sort of placement.
I tend to be, if anything like that happens, is I'm head down, ass up, and you just watch me go, because I will
Yeah.
just work until that's just, yeah, that's kind of, I use
Yeah,
it
but
as
really, if you shouldn't have to go from one extreme to the other like that. That should be balanced. So
yeah,
yes, you might find you do that for a little bit, and then you start to see, actually, having to work my ass off here because I have this belief here isn't serving me well. I need to change that belief so that I will always work hard. I will always achieve my goals. I will always have everything I need because I'm consistent with it. I'm not
yeah.
just working really hard to catch up all the time or taking a
Boom and
holiday the rest
bust.
of the time, whatever it might be.
Yeah, boom and bust. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I feel like I've grown from that, but hey, who knows what this year's to bring? Hey, like I'm open for it, whatever grows and
Yeah,
expands.
Uranus and Gemini, there's always another curveball being coming our way.
Let's talk into that.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, because Uranus is bringing constant change, and while he's in Gemini, it's like turbocharged change. So, what we're already noticing with that is things are happening really fast. Things, you're not spending ages working through something. Things are just happening fast, and you've got to keep up with it because it's keeping you moving and keeping you going, so that you spend less time worrying about what other people think and what the outside world's doing, and more time thinking about what works for me.
Oh, I have been feeling that energy. That is spot on. So, okay, so back to this, Deidre. So this is an example of what the workshop will look like on Saturday for the
Yeah.
paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what the other thing we'd probably do is have a quick look at your original Chiron wound, which is the wound that you came into this lifetime with, which in your chart is in Gemini. So your original wound of rejection is to do with communication and to do with you believing that you're not clever enough.
Hmm.
And so that's going to be activated, of course, when in 7 years' time, when Chiron moves into Gemini, you'll have to do some work on that. But in the meantime, it's just, you can kind of work with them both hand in hand, in the sense that Taurus energy is asking you to create your own security so you feel safe within yourself, no matter where you're going, what you're doing, how much money you've got, whatever. And then that Gemini energy is actually telling you how clever you can be, how innovative you can be, how many new ideas and thoughts you can come up with to make that money, to create that security, whatever that means to you. So, you start to, the thing of Chiron is taking that wound and turning it into a gift.
Mm, mm.
And to do that, we've got to go through it. We've got to go through the learning, feel the wound, heal the wound, find the tools that we use to heal the wound, and then we share that with everybody else.
Yeah. And so on Saturday, when you're sitting with them, how long will they have with you personally? Because this is going to be shared across the whole container. Yeah.
Yes, it is, but it won't be the masterclass I do tomorrow. I will put up publicly on YouTube for anybody can watch it and listen to it. But the
Yeah.
Saturday one will be private, only for who attends, because the personal information in there, I'm sure people don't want the whole world to know about them. So that will be just for the people who attend.
Look at me now, though. Hey,
Yeah,
not everyone's as
yeah.
brave as me. But so they'll get 15 minutes talking into where
Yeah.
they're at.
And
Yeah.
of course, that there'll be people. There could be, I don't know how many people will turn up, but there could be people who've got similar placements. So there could be,
Yes.
looking into the same thing for two different people. I mean, there could be someone, with the same chart like you've got here, who both have that Taurus energy where yours is, but they might not be a Pisces like you are. They could be a Gemini. And
Yes.
so it'll be a different way of going about that learning for each
Yeah.
person. So I will
Yeah.
give each person as much time as I have to give each person.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually, I mean, I work pretty quickly, so it doesn't usually take too long.
Yeah. And hopefully they get the recording because
Yeah,
yeah, good.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
also
they'll get the recording.
Deidre, how long is this container for? So how long is this masterclass on the
The
Saturday
masterclass
for?
on Saturday, again, it depends on how many people sign up and turn up for it. But
Yeah.
I'm looking at around about 90 minutes at this stage.
Nice,
Mm.
nice. So they only need 90 minutes of their day to sit with you. It's only $33.
Yep,
Fantastic value.
yep.
And what time is it on Saturday?
It's on at 12 p.m. New
Oh,
Zealand time on Saturday. the 27th of June, and from 12 p.m. till about 1:30 p.m.
Amazing. Amazing. Everybody needs to get in on that action. I mean, $33. It's just, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it'll be recorded for you so you can refer back to it and listen to it again, you know, as these 7 years go on of this transit, to look at that information and how you can work with it better.
Yeah, and then also it's a good little taster of if they're wanting to get a reading with you, a personalized reading as well.
They want to get the whole chart done. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the whole chart. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Deidre. As always, it's just been amazing having you on here with us and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. It's always fabulous.
Always a pleasure to be here, Catherine. Thank you for asking me again.
Oh, thank you for coming.
And we'll do some more.
Absolutely. All right. Bye for
All
now.
right. Thank you. Bye.